Hello and welcome to the very first episode of Experts Live podcast. My name is Samir and I'm joined by Stoyan, who is also the
Hi,
co-host.
everybody.
Hi Stoyan, thanks for being here. This episode is basically this is not really an episode per se, so this is just going to be more of a pilot episodes, and we'll be setting up the stage for the upcoming episodes. The format of the podcast is going to be more or less Stoyan and I interviewing some guests. The topic will be different, hopefully, each time. So we're not repeating content, right? So um, again, we will not be covering any actual topic in this one, but we'll just talk about ourselves, who we are, why we are here, what the podcast is about, and why should you guys tune in, right? So before we get into it, Stoyens, you've got something to say?
Yes, you could expect very some very interesting discussions about, let's say, popular topics like cloud computing, coding, technical versus not technical, just stuff which should be interesting for a larger audience. We will try to make it very interesting, like Sam mentioned, by inviting different experts and SMAs on different topics. So let's see how this comes out.
Awesome. So before we get into introduction, let me just quickly roll the intro slide, and we shall get going. Awesome. So, Stoyan, if you don't mind, I will start with myself.
Yes, of
Mine.
course. By the way, a great intro video. I really like it.
Yeah, yep. I spent a lot of time finding the right template. To be honest, it was not an easy job. I have like a newfound respect for all the content creators and video makers and all the
Right?
people who do this because it's really difficult.
Cool.
But yeah, so let's start with myself, right? So my name is Samir Maisekar, and I am the founder and organizer of Experts Live India. I have been doing this. Well, by doing this, I mean I've been organizing Experts Live conferences for 3 years now. I think 2019 was the first time we did this. And since that time, we have organized two in person conferences, which we held in Microsoft's office in Hyderabad, India. And I don't know, so last year, so Stoyan, have you heard about this little thing called the COVID? It's,
Yes, actually, after I got back from India the first time, actually, this was the second edition of the conference you organized,
yeah,
Sam, Experts
yeah.
Live India. So, a couple of days after I got back here in Switzerland from India, the whole thing just exploded. I mean, really, it was at the beginning of February 2019,
Yes,
and a couple of weeks later, the
everything
whole boom
stopped.
started.
Yeah.
So, this rings a bell, yeah.
Yeah, so due to all this COVID things and pandemic restrictions, we've not been able to go to any conferences and of course not organize any conferences by extension of it, right? So we have been largely confined to our houses and to online virtual meetups. We tried to do one last time, Stoyan. We did an Experts Live University edition
Which is
for the
actually
university.
a great event, I would say.
It was amazing,
Very
yeah.
interesting for me also,
Yeah.
and of course, a really broad target audience.
Yeah, so that one was mostly targeted towards students. But I think since we had a panel of, I think, six people, five, six people, I think even between all of us, we also got to know each other a little better and we learned a few things ourselves, right? So that was a great event. That one is also, by the way, is also on YouTube, uploaded on YouTube on the same channel, Express Live India. So if you want to go ahead and check that out. Um, But yeah, so we did this last time virtually. But hopefully, I think as the restrictions are slowly and eventually starting to lift nowadays, hopefully by the end of this year or maybe in the beginning of the next Stoyan, we can probably meet again for an
Lisa,
in-person event.
that would be awesome. To be honest, the second edition of Experts Life India sparked a big, let's say, or started a big spark in my interest. Not only about India, the people there, the culture. So
Yeah.
it's really. I'm waiting for the time where I can visit you again and do this really in person or again like we did it back then.
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, you were here in India for how long? I think just about a week. Was it a week?
It was about a very, it was really very short week. And to be honest, this was my first time in India, and I was just fascinated by the whole thing, by the people, by the culture, by everything. So I cannot wait to get back there.
Yeah, I could tell because for once, Toyin absolutely loved the food, as far as I can tell.
Yeah,
Uh,
I love the people also. I got really accepted so well. Of course, I had a very nice host there. You have.
yeah, me and along with me, there were a couple more people. Yeah.
That's really the case. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So when you were in India here, of course, the primary reason for you being here was the conference. So Stoyan, so I have been organizing Six Parts Live India for a couple of years, but what's funny about that is I haven't actually attended any Experts Live conference myself, other than the one I organize, of course, right? So some of the people in the audience may have heard of Experts Live as a brand, right? So Experts Live India is just like a sub brand of it. So it's a umbrella of all the conferences happening around the world, Experts Live, and one of the pillars is Experts Live India. So you have been doing going around Experts Lives in Europe, I think, and then you've been going in Netherlands, Switzerland. So what do you have to say, or what experience have you got?
Uh, you're right about this. I did actually the predecessor of Experts Life was called System Center Universe. So I was attending the last edition of System Center Universe, and then the brand name has been switched to Experts Life. And since then, I visited, I think, two times Experts Life Europe. One was, if I'm not mistaken, in Prague, in the Czech Republic, and the other one was in Basel, Switzerland. And of course, I visited one edition of Experts Life, or actually two editions of Experts Life Switzerland, which is one of the viewers. Um, what should I say? First of all, a broad number of the best experts in the Microsoft world. What we need to say here is that the Experts Life is Microsoft products oriented,
Yeah,
event. So most of the sessions are covering Microsoft products like Azure or general cloud computing, also System Center, and a lot of other stuff. So the best experts in the world are mostly attending those conferences. It's always fun, a great fun to be there to do a bit of networking. And although we had online events the past couple of years, the topics were really awesome. So very interesting topics. That's what I
yeah,
can say. And of course, Experts Life India was not. It was also the same. I mean, you had great sessions about operations manager, you have cloud computing, we had automation, PowerShell, and all the stuff. So,
yeah.
what should
We
I
had
say?
a couple of people from Microsoft product teams taking the session, right? So for SCOM operations manager, we had the actual product team who develops the product, right? So it was really nice to get insights from them, and it was also nice to give feedback directly face to face to them, right? So because Toyin, you and I, we have been lurking in the forums for a long time, System Center, right? Forums. We sometimes see a lot of questions are very repetitive, so to say, right? So there are some questions, very long-standing questions, some long-standing problems with the products. um, yes, of course, you can raise a user voice request, or you can like go through official channels to Microsoft, talk to them about what the problem is and what you want, what features you want. But I think it was pretty convenient. First of all, convenient and more effective. I think just to go up to the program manager and tell them, hey, this is a list of things that people really want. So
It's really
please
not.
prioritize this.
It doesn't happen every day that you get the chance to go and talk back to the guys that are developing the product you use every day and work with
Yeah.
and are expert in. So yeah, it was awesome chance to get in touch with those people.
Yeah, so yeah, again, so like I said, so hopefully we will be able to come back together, and I have all the plans of organizing more events like this. So let's hope for the best.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
so let's talk a bit about ourselves, right? I have already said a few things about me and the conference. What would you say? So, what is your educational background? Where do you come from? Where do you work? What do you focus on? And why are you here, basically?
So I'm a native Bulgarian, so I'm born and raised in Bulgaria.
Okay.
But for the last 8 years, I'm living in Switzerland. I have a wife and two beautiful daughters. My specialty is again Microsoft products. I'm very good at Active Directory, scripting, mainly PowerShell, of course, and of course Microsoft System Center. My passion is System Center Operations Manager. It's what I do on a daily basis, almost 100% of my time currently, or 80% to be honest. The rest 20% I'm doing either PowerShell or Active Directory again. I'm a Microsoft MVP
Mhm.
for a fifth year now in a row. Um, we could mention later a couple of words about what is like being a Microsoft MVP and what actually the MVP program is. But I'm working as a senior principal consultant in a Swiss-based consulting company. Um, it's actually the customers we have are mainly Swiss customers, and of course the technologies are those we mentioned. So SCOM, automation, Active Directory, and stuff like this.
Okay, just sorry for interjecting here, but just for quick reference, I'll just let who is not familiar with SCOM, I'll just let them know SCOM is basically a Microsoft's monitoring tool for IT infrastructure, right?
That's correct. That's correct. And also, part of my work is also helping others in the Microsoft forums, the so-called Microsoft Q&A platform. And actually, it's an interesting story. Uh, I met Samir there, or this is how we got to know each other. Samir was asking, actually, on the old platform, the social TechNet forums, a lot of questions regarding
All the
System Center
stupid
Operations
questions.
Manager. No, they were actually very, very proper questions, not stupid questions, to be honest, although there are none. But this is how it's called started. So I got back to Sam in LinkedIn. We started discussing technical stuff mostly. And then this is how a friendship started, a big friendship for
Yeah.
me. This is how I got to get the chance to visit India.
Yeah, exactly. So when I started my career, story, and so I compared to you, I'm still, I guess, still a baby in my career, still, right? But so I started around 6 years ago. So when I was placed in campus placements, so I was placed in this company called TCS, Tata Consultancy Services, which is a pretty big company actually. So I started as a SCOM admin there. So there were a few things I tried out before SCOM as well, but SCOM was something that really that I stuck to, right? So I really liked SCOM, and the more I liked it, the more I started working on it, and the more I worked on it, the more I got involved into such community things like Q&A and LinkedIn and groups and Facebook groups and everything, right? So yeah, so like you said, this is where met Stoyan. I say met, but virtually met Stoyan. I also met a lot of other interesting people, right? So a couple of our mutual friendships also come from there, like Bob and Zui and Cyril, maybe Leon. It's
Yes.
a lot of amazing people that we met there. So yeah, so that actually kept me coming back, so to say, to the forums, and we it was I remember, so it was kind of a competition between the three four people of between us, is like who was gonna answer the question first.
There was really such a time frame where you, I, and also two other guys were answering all SCOM related questions on the Microsoft forums.
Yeah,
And in order to be able to get to write an answer or to get the answer first, I had to click refresh almost every
refresh all the
minute
time.
in order to be sure that I haven't wrote something which you already wrote. So yeah, it was very interesting.
Exactly.
Yes.
It was fun. It was fun. Well, I say it was fun, but it was fun and informative, educative at the same time, right? Because all the problems that I hadn't seen in my SCOM environment, I was seeing them in forums, and so I was researching about them. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known about it ever, right? So in that in that competition of answering questions, I also learned a lot of new things that I otherwise I wouldn't have learned, right? So it was fun, educative, informative, all at the same time. So yeah, so after that, so when I worked in TCS for about 3 years, then I moved to a Canada-based company called Infront Consulting. Stoyan, you may have heard of it because Infront was a prominent system center. They had a collection of system center experts in the US
Yeah.
and Canada region. Many of them are very influential in the community, so they have written books and written blogs. Right, so it was a very tight but impressive collection of experts in that company. So then it got taken over by this another company called Greenhouse Data. So that is where I worked. By extension, I worked for Greenhouse Data for about a year, I think.
What
And
did you do
then
there?
so Greenhouse Data was something was the time when I started moving a little more towards Azure. Right. So because by this time, by the time I was in Infront, I was still mainly working with SCOM. And as it got taken over by Greenhouse Data, then more Azure Monitor, Azure migrations kind of new projects started coming to me, and that was a
So this is the
completely
point where your cloud journey started, right?
cloud journey started. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And let me say that was not easy. Again, like I said, this was a very tight knit group of very experienced experts around the world. Their experience was like some of them were like as experienced as how old I am, right? So that's how long they were working in IT. So some of them had like
Interesting
20
fact.
years, 25 years of experience working in IT, and I was supposed to be working alongside them, shoulder to shoulder, so to say. So that was a little stressing, if I dare say so. But at the same time, again, I had to like learn a lot of things very quickly. Um, so that was fun. It was stressing at times, but it was still fun. So I started moving a little bit towards Azure, and then Azure Monitor eventually became my main focus. And that is where After 2 years of working there, I got in contact with Richard Benwell, who is the CEO of SquareUp. Is actually he flew over from UK to India for one of these conferences. Right, the first edition was when Richard and Bruce from SquareUp they sponsored that event, and then they flew over. They stayed for about 3 days, I think, and we kind of formed a friendship because I was the like you said I was the host, so I was showing them around. I was like basically transporting them from places to places. So, right, so we got chatting and we kind of became friends, right? And then he went back, and then he after some a few months he extended me an offer to go work with him in SquareUp, which is also a SCOM Azure Monitor based company. So I started working there. I worked there for 2 years, and then I moved to Dell. So today I work in Dell, Dell EMC in particular. So I work on again a completely different thing that I used to work in. So nowadays I work in Azure Stack HCI. Have you heard of Azure Stack HCI or Azure Stack in general?
I know what it is about, but to be honest with you, I'm not that deep into the topic.
Right.
So maybe we'll get the chance to hear more from you in the upcoming episodes of our
Definitely,
podcast.
definitely. We can have one whole episode dedicated for Azure Stack HCI.
That will be very interesting, I'm sure.
It is actually pretty interesting topic, right? So, like I said, even I didn't know anything about Azure Stack, but then this offer came to me, and then I started researching as what exactly is this thing, right? So as then I started researching, it kind of grabbed me more and more. It's like yeah, as I was reading through the documentation and watching the videos, I was like, hey man, you know what? This is actually pretty interesting. Uh, and it is, and anything I'm sure you will agree, anything that has Azure in it has a lot of weight nowadays in market, right?
That's really the case. Not only because Microsoft is pushing the topic, but because the topic itself it's very interesting, very promising, and yeah. And what I found very interesting about your let's say biography is that you worked with different products through your career path. This is a really uh, of course, we will talk about IT career development in our future episodes, but it's really the way to be proficient in a technology. Just work with it, work it over up to the last detail. And I had also a similar experience throughout my career. So I was doing I was working for a couple of years for a Microsoft professional support, where I
At Microsoft, you mean?
was yes, it was a Microsoft professional support for the Europe region, actually for the German-speaking Europe region. So this is
Okay.
Germany, Austria, and Switzerland because I speak fluently German. And this is where I got familiar with Active Directory, and I became an expert or a subject matter expert in Active Directory. It's still something I love doing. So working and troubleshooting Active Directory, and also then I moved to Switzerland, and here I had to learn coding and PowerShell, which I'm doing
Mhm.
now also, and of course System Center. So those jumps from technology to technology are giving you a broader vision on what's
Exactly.
interesting, what's promising, and of course you learn something.
Yeah, yeah, that's the thing, right? So you have to keep hitting until the time something sticks, right? So it's something that we discussed in that university edition as well. So how do I know what do I want to work in? So just try
Absolutely.
different things,
Yes,
see what you're good at, see where your interest is, and stick with
absolutely.
it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, anyways, let's not jump the gun. We have detailed discussions about this in the upcoming episodes, so we'll
Yes.
leave that here for now. Um, so yeah, so that's I think all about me that I wanted to share today. Have you got anything? that you may want to address?
I just wanted to mention shortly to our future participants what they could expect from us. So they could
Yeah.
expect discussions on very interesting topics, both IT and not non-IT. They should be prepared to meet some really great experts because we both some. You can correct me, but we both have really nice friendships with really experts which are
Oh, yeah.
at the top of their area. So we could promise you this, and of course, just having fun.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the agenda of the podcast is that there is no agenda to the podcast, right? So
Yes.
now, for some people, it might feel like it is all disorganized and all over the place. But I think the whole reason that we started this podcast was to be able to share experiences with our audience, right? So it may not, so your experience may not always confine to a specific space or a specific field, right? So you may have something to talk technically about some things, but you may also have some business experiences, right? So you may have some, yeah, you know what, this was a really nice business deal that we did with one of our clients. But then if we confine or if we set our agenda to only Azure, say for example, then these things is something that we miss out on. Right. So
Yes.
some days we'll talk about IT, some days we'll be more technical than some other times, right? Some days we'll be talking purely about career development. Some days we might be talking about marketing, even sales, whatever, right? So but of course now there has to be a theme to everything, and the theme for this podcast and on a high level would be IT and IT related things. So when I say sales and marketing, I don't really mean selling balloons or selling candies, right?
Just any
or
product, yeah.
yeah, or a marketing for a movie or something, right? So we will of course stick to a theme which is IT, but it's not going to be always technical, right? So we will have some experts talking technical. We will also have some people talking, I don't know, maybe motivational, share some experiences that might
Yes.
turn someone's life around. We never know.
And we will try, of course, to get back to our audience in the future episodes and to see, to check on what would be also interesting, like a topic. Just
Exactly, yeah.
get back to the people and ask them what should we
What they
cover in
want
our
to
future
hear.
episodes. Yes.
Yeah.
And one important thing, you don't have to have an Experts Life India shirt to be to be present. So come on.
Yeah, but if you want, please feel free to drop by in our next physical event. We'll definitely
Yes.
get you one.
Yes.
Right. Awesome. Cool. So I think that's it for today, Stoyan. Thank you so much for taking out the time.
Thank you, Sam. Also.
Hopefully we will have the next episode up and running really quick. We are actually in the process of inviting guests and deciding on the topics and recording the videos. So hopefully maybe by next week or in a couple of weeks at least, depending on how the time permits, we will have something really interesting for you to tune into. And
Just
so
stay tuned.
thanks.
Yeah. Thank everybody. Thanks
Thanks everyone.
everybody
Until
for
then,
joining
hope to
us.
see you next time.
See you around.
Cheers. Bye.
Cheers, guys.